Hello. Okay, what am I doing here today? I'm making another one in response to this talk that Len Ritter had with CBC, or CBC had with Len Ritter, regarding spraying glyphosate near the watershed in Moncton area. I believe about 100,000 people get their water from this watershed, and J.D. Irving is going to spray glyphosate on the slopes near it. And why I'm making this video is because some reporter asked me for my comment about this interview. Some reporter from New Brunswick. I was quite surprised why I was asked, of all people. So anyway, I have lots of things to say. First of all, I have a serious complaint against CBC, especially the video part of it, not the audio, not the one that comes out on radio, but one that comes out on television. And what is the complaint? A few years ago, I was in Winnipeg, Manitoba. There was a debate going on a hall between Mr. Wager and Thierry Vrain, and I was just taking pictures and so on. I had a flaming row and a confrontation with a politician, a retired politician who I didn't know, and he came and charged me inside the hall for insulting him the previous day. Apparently I had said that the root of this problem is corrupt politicians, and that rang a bell with the packed hall the previous day, and a lot of claps and all. I did not know this guy was sitting there. I did not know he was a politician. Whatever it is, he took offense, and the next day, while this debate was going on between Thierry Vrain and Robert Wager, this guy tapped me on the shoulders and started a fight, saying that I had insulted him previous day, calling all politicians corrupt. And I told him I didn't say all politicians corrupt. I said many politicians are corrupt, and was he a politician? Anyway, the thing is, we had a flaming row, and I told him to just be careful of the fact that I only addressed corrupt politicians as the problem. If he was not corrupt, then he has nothing to worry about, and if he was corrupt, then don't take it out on me. He has to sort it out himself. So he left the hall in a huff, and there was a commotion and something. So I got it caught the attention of certain media guys. So I was called out of the hall, and there was an outside, like a corridor, like a patio, like open place. And these two persons with a camera and a mic from CBC wanted to interview me and ask me what was going on and what did I have to say about whatever was happening, with the debate and with this tour and so on. So so I started talking about the problems of pesticide in Canadian food, and I identified the root cause to be entrenched corruption in our political system. And these were CBC television crew. They switched off the camera and they asked me to change my language, because if I identify politics to be corrupt, then they are not allowed to interview me anymore. I have to change the wording. And I said I will not change the wording. And if the root cause is political corruptness, then the root cause is political corruptness. I'm not going to change. So essentially they said they cannot interview me, and they walked away. And I just told them that that's fine. I didn't ask to be interviewed. You're the one who came to ask me, and you just proved that Canada doesn't have free speech anymore, or freedom of expression anymore. You can't even criticize the goddamn government, who is supposed to work for me. I'm not supposed to allowed to criticize it. And so I have a rather poor opinion of CBC to start with. It's not their fault. Maybe they are dictated by the government. I hold the people of Canada responsible for allowing this to happen. I always hold the people, including myself, responsible. If we have a democracy, it's always our fault, not somebody else's fault. If you want to find out who is responsible, look no further than the nearest mirror. It's your fault and my fault. So that is as far as CBC goes. But then I have learned that, the CBC radio, the audio part of it has a little more freedom, maybe because less people listen to radio and audio files. than they watch TV. So therefore the CBC audio part has got a little bit more leeway. And so this particular interview conducted by CBC on audio file, like on a radio, to this Len Ritter, they made the correct sound bites. The CBC asked the correct kind of, more or less the correct question. They missed major parts of it, but then I don't know if I should fault them. I mean, most of these people who ask this question don't know the history of it, or they don't know the expanse of it, and therefore they don't always ask the right questions. So to me, here is the thing. If you are asking a toxicologist, and that's what Len Ritter claims to be, a toxicologist, I do not consider him qualified, but that's my opinion. The first thing to do is check whether the science itself is good enough or not. And this is where the first problem lies. You are asking a toxicologist who is probably ill-suited, is probably not qualified to be neutral and talk about it. So, what do I think about the science? Here is what I think. For a long time now, most of the science with regard to this GMO and pesticides and so on are public funded in our universities. Canada has changed the laws so that science is no more public funded, especially these kind of ones, the ones that are involved with sustainability, safety, environment and so on. They are no more public funded, they are industry funded. And if the public is not paying for it, if you pay junk money for science, you get junk science and you get junk scientists. So to start with, you got wrong group of people. The right thing to do to get an honest assessment of whether something is safe or not safe and what's happening is to first change the law and make science public funded, the findings to be owned by the public, the people, and not by corporations. Let somebody check good points of GMO and pesticides and herbicides if they want, and also somebody else wants to find the bad sides of this thing. Let them all test whatever they want. None of them to be hounded out, none of their papers to be retracted. Let the chips fall where they may. Let 20 years pass so that enough information has accumulated on both sides, and then we can discuss the science. As long as that is not happening and we have junk science, don't ask an industry scientist who is working in the university and he's been spent his life promoting this bloody toxic soup all his life. I mean, if science was public funded, if my tax money was going to pay for this science, and if I had a say, then I would say this gentleman should be encouraged to change his profession and probably sell newspapers by the roadside. And we get some people who are a lot more cautious about what they research into this field of finding out whether it's safe or not. One thing I would recommend them to do is not talk about this institution finding it safe, those guys in Germany finding it safe, blah, blah, blah. We are not Germany, we are Canada, and we have to test ourselves whether it's safe or not, and not what somebody, he says, she says. He's picking and choosing, Some parts of World Health Organization found glyphosate to be carcinogenic. He's not mentioning that. Sri Lanka has banned it outright in sugarcane workers because people were dying of kidney failure, and he's not mentioning it. Whole lot of things he's not mentioning. The main thing is Canada should encourage testing ourselves and not depend on somebody else's research. And we should not allow this testing to be done under control of either the political system, because politics is corrupt like hell, or the industry like Monsanto. They should not be able to control the outcome of the test. It should be proven neutral. Yes, Canada is low population country. You can say that we cannot afford to test everything, right? But you don't have to pay for it. Monsanto should pay for it. They should not control it, but they should still foot the bill. Every corporation that wants to get something registered should be made to pay for it. This is what we need to do. And then these people should be encouraged to conduct honest assessment, transparent, so that people can come and watch what they're doing. There's no cheating going on. If you are talking about carcinogenicity, take 50 rats, take multiple batches of them so that they can be repeated, and one group being exposed to only organic food, another only with measured amount of glyphosate in their food, and yet another measured amount of Roundup with whatever else is there with glyphosate, and then their health parameters measured not for 2 months, 3 months and 4 months, for the entire life period of the rat, that is say 2 years, and then measured whether there is any problem. 2 years for a lab rat is similar to a lifetime for a human being. There is no need to test only 3 months, because as independent people find out, on the 4th and 5th month they start developing tumors. So there's too much of cheating being done by this industry. Understandably, they have an incentive, a financial incentive, a conflict of interest. They have an interest to show that their product is safe. They have an interest. How the hell you allow the tests that are under their control to be accepted? You should never allow, and you should never allow what Germany says and Australia and pick and choose. You have to conduct this test here. And these characters like Len Ritter and all, if they want to be in the business, they should be conducting this test themselves for the whole life period of the labs, and for the rats, and transparently, so independent people can observe, or allow somebody else to do this test independent of any involvement from the politician. So this is the first thing. We got junk science and junk scientists. This is the first thing. Next, whole lot of questions were asked about whether it is safe, and there are so many things said it is safe. The most important question that was not asked is this: glyphosate has been approved 40 years ago, and its safety test data based on which it was approved has been kept hidden for all those 40 years. Next, it is illegal, as far as I understand the law, to allow a product to be released for use while withholding its safety document. So essentially the government is quote unquote breaking its own law by allowing glyphosate to be used without the original safety test document. And what is the safety test? Not what Germany says and France says. Again, animals having been exposed to this pesticide, and their health parameters compared to another group of identical animals not exposed to this pesticide, and their health parameters. This is what is called a direct safety test. These details have not been released, and I have a running fight going on with the Access to Information Act with Ottawa for a long time now, multiple years, to show me all these data. And I have correspondence that seems to indicate that the Health Canada has more than 130,000 pages of such document. Another correspondence says no, it can be filtered down to 26,000. Whatever number of thousand of pages, they are not showing it to me, and I don't know whether they include any direct test on animals, or just he said, she said, so and so person found it, says so and so person. That's all rubbish. So it is still hidden. The government is not telling me that I don't have the right to see it, but they're just dragging their feet. So this is the most relevant question that should have been asked to this character. Have the safety documents been released to the people? Original data, raw data of the safety test and the reports on animals exposed to it. Have they been conducted outside of control of the promoters such as Monsanto? And where are those safety data? If they have not been released, then everything else they said, everything else is rubbish. It has been approved in 2015 means nothing, because this all he said, she said. There is no original data. I have a copy of what from Health Canada of the documents based on which they approved it in 2015. It's several hundred pages of third-party opinions. I mean, this is rubbish, absolutely rubbish. There is no direct evidence that it is at all safe. Now he is talking about, this Len Ritter is talking about safety limits had been set and this and that, and as long as it is below, it is technically safe. Again, there is no disclosure of data that any level is found safe. You first set a safety level here, and then after some years you increase it, and then you increase it, not because you have found evidence that more concentration is safe, but because you found that the old level has already been crossed, so you are simply keeping on jacking up the allowable safe limit, so that whatever is produced by these toxic farmers is still considered safe. And none of this has been disclosed. You have not even disclosed whether glyphosate is safe even at 1 part per trillion in water or in soil or in whatever. So what is the meaning of this safety limit set by government and not to worry, it is safe? I mean, it's all hogwash, And this is what happens when you ask people like this Mr. Ritter, this kind of questions. So, regarding spraying around the watershed, first of all, why was spraying necessary? You did not mention. Nobody asked that, and no, it was not. Why was it necessary to at all spray? Spraying means you are killing something. Whether it's grass, whether it's alfalfa, whether it's vegetation, I don't know. You are killing something. Why are you killing it? If there is rain, it will go into the soil and it will percolate downhill into the watershed anyway. It may not be in 1 day, it may be in 1 month. Was there any condition mentioned that it should never rain there so that it doesn't percolate down? Then it will stay in the soil. It will stay in the microbes. It will move in the air whenever there is a dust storm and all that. It will move around it. Why did you have to spray it, first of all? What happens to the animals that feed on that, or microorganisms, birds and all that? What happens? We know that it is devastating to wildlife and animals, especially in embryonic stage when the mother is exposed to it. Have Mr. Len Ritter done any experiment on feeding picoliters of it to pregnant frogs, for instance? Let's see the data. Because I have seen others data I have not seen the data. I have heard from other scientists that have done these experiments, and they found devastating results. So, all this entire interview was on falseness to start with. The science is false, the scientist is false, the funding of the science was false, why it was necessary to spray was not covered. What happens if there is a wind when you are spraying it? What is 3 kilometers mean? Nothing. If the wind is blowing the right way, it will carry over. Even if there is no wind now, if there is wind after 3 days and the stuff starts flying around, what happens? If there is a rain, what happens? If there is a snow, I mean, so many different things. Even if there is nothing, what happens to that soil if you are keeping on putting glyphosate in it? Who has done the study of ecosystems? Who? Because there is no evidence. No data has been disclosed by the government. Everything is illegal. From the first day onwards, the application of glyphosate is illegal. That's what I say. Now, these questions should have been asked. Where is the safety test data? If they have not been disclosed, don't you think, Mr. Ritter, that it is illegal to use this without disclosure of the glyphosate? There are court cases where this Monsanto's report has been forcefully disclosed by the court. They tried to hide it. They were forced to disclose. And it was found out that these tests were full of sham. I mean, there was a lot of cheating going on, outright cheating going on. And this has been disclosed in those court cases. How come you don't know about? How come these were not mentioned by Mr. Ritter? Does he know about them, or is selectively being trained by Monsanto of what to know, what not to know? How come he didn't mention those cases where this anomaly has been? How come he didn't mention that it has been banned in Sri Lanka because people are dying of kidney failure? How come he didn't mention all? How come he didn't mention one wing of World Health Organization considered it a probable carcinogen? How come he didn't? That's because you ask the wrong person, he'll give you the wrong answer. Anyway, so that's my more or less unprepared rant on what I think about this whole issue of spraying glyphosate near the water reservoir at Turtle Creek in New Brunswick, near Moncton. Thank you.